welcome to another BWN TV show. I'm really enjoying these shows because I am getting to know business owners. Some of them I've known for many, many years on a whole new level. And what we want to do in each one of these shows is we want to share a few ideas about how to be successful despite the situation we all find ourselves in, what's going on in our lives, any top tips for other business owners. Today's show is going to be exceptionally good for that because Jayne is from Spritz Monkey, and Spritz Monkey is not some kind of posh cocktail you're going to get in the Caribbean. I'm sorry to disappoint you, and please don't switch off because I can assure you the subject we are going to talk about isn't boring when Jayne talks about it, but we will mention a bit about cybersecurity, which is what Spritz Monkey is really known for at the BWN. Jayne's been speaking for us for quite a few years now, and normally at some stage in her masterclass, I look around the room and there's like 40 faces like this. I didn't know that. Did you know that? Oh, I didn't know that. That's really scary. So it should be fun. It should be fun. So thank you so much for joining us today, Jayne. Any monkeys with you today?
No, all monkeys are currently in my son's bedroom, where they should be.
Well, ironically, we started the first BWN TV show was with Nigel Risner, who has spoken for the BWN a few times, and we call him the chief monkey. So it's nice to have another former monkey back. So how's lockdown been for Spritz Monkey and you?
It's been interesting. From my point of view, what I tend to do for Spritz Monkey is I'm kind of like the face of. I go out and I do lots of events. We were meant to be involved in our first big major show in London, which obviously got cancelled. So all of that stuff that I would normally doing for marketing materials, I've not been needed, which is kind of a bonus because obviously I've got 2 young children who've not been at school. So instead I have become teacher monkey rather than Spritz Monkey, which has been eye-opening, I can say, definitely.
You have children of a young age, so you have teacher talk, which is a bit like when teachers say, "Oh, darling, could you not do that, please?" For me, that would be, "You down now." That was very nice and polite the way you said that.
That's my professional voice. When I'm talking to my children who aren't doing what I would like them to do, I'm much more strict. Yes. So it's difficult to motivate. Well, it can be. It has been quite difficult to motivate them. They've done PE every day with Joe Wicks. Such a lifesaver, that man. And just getting them to engage. I mean, my son is quite lively. You have chatted with him before yourself. He is very difficult to get him to sit down. He needs to move. He's a very live wire kind of young man, and he just has to get up and move. So he will concentrate for a few minutes and do something, and then he'll have to get up and run around, and then he'll sit down again. So that's quite distracting then for his older sister, who wants to sit down and concentrate. But we're managing. Nobody's killed each other yet.
Yeah. Let's get there. We're not there at the end yet.
No.
But what would you say to other parents that are struggling or feeling a bit overwhelmed by it all?
Don't be too hard on yourself, really. I mean, one of the first pieces of advice I was given at the very beginning of all of this was that, particularly for primary school children, they don't really do more than maybe 2 to 3 hours of actual work a day because of everything else that's going on. They've got their playtimes, they've got lunch, they've got excuses to go and toddle off the toilet. So actual sitting down and working productively 2 to 3 hours. So, if you're getting that in a day, you're doing well, to be honest.
Yeah. So, I mean, your life, like mine, is completely online now. I did want to touch upon this because I know that every time that Jayne's ever spoken for the BWN, we learn something new. I remember the first thing that one of the first golden nuggets that you gave me years ago was, your password, I could probably crack it within about 5 minutes. And you was explaining Jayne did this amazing thing about the longer the password, and if you do this, this, and this, and this, it can't be cracked. And you taught me a way of doing my passwords, which means it's only going to take someone 92 years to crack my passwords now. Not that I want to set anyone a challenge, but what would your top tips be for us now in lockdown? Is it all the same? Do we not have to worry any extra, or is there other stuff to
well, the principles are basically the same, to make sure that your passwords meet criteria. I mean, we're all going online a lot more. We're using a lot more applications and websites that are asking for passwords. A lot of them have their own requirements, so you have to make sure it's at least 8 characters. It has to have 1 number, it has to have 1 capital letter. Unfortunately, 8 characters isn't long enough, if you recall back to my previous chat. So it needs to be at least 12. Right. So once you 12 characters, you're past the point of where it's easy to get a piece of software to crack it, basically. The rules that I always go by is taking 3 random words. So it could be just where it's at. A new website says you need a password, and you go, phone, pen, window, for example. So pick things that are randomly near you. Put a capital letter on each of those words. Change letters for numbers where it makes sense to you. Jam it all together, and then you've got a password that basically is pretty difficult to hack. And it's that simple. And do it for everything, and don't use the same password for everything. And that's the biggest trouble that people do. So if you're finding that you've got lots of different websites and applications that you're starting to have passwords for, use something like LastPass, which is what we use. And
I use LastPass. It's a godsend.
It's brilliant. And basically you just then need 1 master password for it yourself, and then it does the rest. It remembers everything. It remembers the websites, and it just fills it in for you. You don't have to remember it.
I like really long passwords now. So especially if a website's not been very nice to me, I write a very rude password with lots of random characters in the middle, so that whenever I go into that website, I know it's actually got rude words in there.
Perfect.
Makes me happy. I mean, it's a small thing.
Absolutely. I mean, the other thing that people seem to worry about is, I shouldn't write passwords down. But if you're working from a home environment and you've got a notepad with your passwords written down in a drawer, if somebody's breaking into your house, they're not going to be looking for your notepad with your passwords on it. They're going to be hefting out the TV. So if you want to write passwords down, that's fine. It's more to do with being in an office environment. So, you know, the number of years I've worked and seen people with their username and password on a post-it note, and they've stuck it to their monitor and just left. I know, stupid, but it's what people do.
I think so, the thing, it's a bit like because I worked in the car industry for many years. I always said, and I still hold true to this, that young people should be made to walk around a wrecked car. Because if you walk around a wrecked car, you have a very different attitude to what happens in a car accident. People feel quite resilient and like nothing's going to touch them. And the amount of times I've had a young person who's in their late teens, early 20s, and they've looked around this car, and I've watched the colour come out of them, and that look of, I just didn't think this could happen to me. And they drive differently as a result. And I think it's similar here. People have this attitude of, well, you know, I'm not James Bond, I'm not the Prime Minister, so people aren't going to be very interested in me. But it's not directly you that they're necessarily looking to get. They're harvesting, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, basically, they just spend their life trying to bust into websites and emails, and then they don't care who you are. They're just trying, and they'll go along and they'll find the ones that are easiest. So as long as you make your passwords complex and secure and meeting the requirements, you're not going to be the first on the list. I mean, I always have my list of the top 20 most popular passwords, don't I, when I'm presenting to people, and it changes every year. And every year there's the same old ones on there, which means people just aren't learning. And you need to take it into consideration as well with your devices, so your phone and your iPad. Don't have your passcode as 111111 just because it's my mother. You know, or the other most used one is 123456, because you're told you need a 6 digits and people can't be bothered and they just do that and think, oh, it's just my phone. But how many contacts have you got in your phone?
And then but then you're in the realms of data protection as well, aren't you? If something happens to your phone, yeah. So it is always fascinating when Jayne speaks for the BWN. How are you feeling? How are you feeling about networking and looking after Spritz Monkey moving forward, especially if we end up like this for quite some time?
Well, from our point of view, networking and connecting people over the internet, over these sort of conferencing, is easy. It's just what we're doing. We've always had Microsoft Teams ourselves within our company, so that we can talk, because we've got a couple of consultants that don't live in the same area as us. So if we want to talk to them, we can do it over Teams. So you have a face-to-face and have a chat, and that's, you know, it's just normal for us. So we've just extended that out now to our clients, and we're having our weekly meetings with them. I mean, my husband has been doing, for those who don't know, it's a husband-wife business. Don't ask. He's been doing audits this week, ISO 27001 audits with a client, and BSI as the audit body, and they've been using things like Zoom that we're using now to continue and have the audits. It works if you want it to.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah. And so do you see the future being very different to what the past looked like for your company and your customers?
Very specifically, we've talked to quite a few of our clients about it, and they've all said that working from home works. You know, that having the load of people in an office every day, it hasn't affected their productivity at all. It's all been working as it should do. You know, they've not really had any problems, and what it has done is saved everybody on time, money. Everybody's accessible, and nobody cares if one of your children runs into the room, you know, because everybody understands what's going on. It's accepted as normal.
Part and parcel. Yeah. No. In fact, another. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, nobody thinks of you as any less professional for it. It's just, you know, 6 months ago, everybody have been appalled. Oh my goodness, that child, and we're on a proper conference call. But now it's like, well, that's just life, isn't it?
Our second interview, second show for BWN TV was with Isabel Chaplin, the accountant, and she looked fabulous. So Isabel also sells unique makeup. So she's got a Makeup Perfect, a lovely white top on, and she's talking about best practices in lockdown for, you know, what to consider in accountancy. And all of a sudden her little 5-year-old comes in a beautiful summer dress with red painted hands. Isabel hasn't properly spotted because she's looking at the camera. I spotted this child coming in, and Isabel would come around and she went, "Oh, we stopping here?" And I went, "No, that stays." But that's the point, isn't it? It's about knowing that it's okay. I was doing a BWN networking event on Wednesday, and something happened, and I messaged my daughter and said, "Can I have another coffee, please?" And it hadn't happened. So I just shouted out, "Excuse me, am I getting another coffee or what?" I love it because the little hand comes in. I love so many shots where a hand comes in with the coffee. It's brilliant. And as I say this, I have this who is now demanding attention.
Oh, hello.
I think Holly is getting, like, she wants the camera all the time now. So yes, well famous. Well, yes, she didn't make it on the Sri Lankan show. I hope she doesn't go on that one next time. That would be, mind you, I think they're quite used to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But for you personally, had any impact? So as a business, and for you and your customers, you're like, no, this is great, we know what we're doing, we can do this, it's all good. But you personally, is there anything that you've found that lockdown has made you really think, I want more of this, or I want less of this, or made you think about the future for you differently?
Well, I mean, it did for a while make things a bit tricky, because obviously Darren, my husband, had to work from home, and we have got an office, and it's 5 minutes down the road, and it's usually only 3 of us in there, but he worked from home, and it was okay. But I think when it got to the point where it was all right for him to go back to the office, he was ready for it from his own point of view. So working from home does work, but you need your own space to do it in.
Yeah.
So I'm in the room that he was working from now, and it's actually the spare bedroom, which is why I've got this angled here, so you're not looking at a bed. But it's the kind of thing that for some people might be challenging, because you do need the space to be able to do it.
Yeah, somebody I was speaking to, he was saying that that he's now got to work from home, got no choice, but couldn't buy a desk. It's taken 3 months to buy a desk. Yeah. There was no desks available. So will you shush it? I actually worked from my caravan yesterday, because we're shielded. I kind of feel like I live in here during the week. So it was lovely. I sat in the caravan. Holly sat in the window so she could watch the world go by and tell everyone off. How dare you walk in my street? It was really nice to have somewhere different to work. It was quite funny, because I was talking to a gentleman in another country who I'm going to be working with, and he said, where are you sat? And I said, I'm sat in my caravan. He said, you're sat in your caravan? I said, yeah, I need a different place. I wanted to feel free, And he said, so to clarify, you've left the big house to go and sit in the tin box. And I said, oh, well, when you put it like that doesn't sound so quite so free, does it? But the caravan is used to get me around the world on holiday. And he went, okay, I'll let you have that. But it's important that as daft as it seems, things like that make us feel, for me, I feel it's important. It makes me feel like I'm back into work mode.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, our sales guy, Andy, he has actually built his own desk in he's quite handy Andy. But he's built his own desk, but he did it in the knowledge that actually his 10-year-old son can start to use it for his homework. So he knows that at some point he'll be able to go back to the office, but for now he's working from home and he's made his own desk. But I mean, you will also have noticed probably that technology suddenly became high demand. Everybody wanted a new laptop, and my niece and nephew trying to work from home on a laptop that took about half an hour to open was on Windows 7, which we had a very stiff word about. But that's the kind of thing. Everybody was digging out laptops that they'd not used for 3 years and finding they just weren't up for the task. Yeah. But then if you wanted to order another one, it was a bit like the desks. You had to wait, or you couldn't get what you wanted. So I think what's actually happened is basically technology has had this giant push up. So we've gone from technology is pretty cool to actually we really need it.
And I think the other thing is, at the start, you helped us write it, the instructions on how to get onto a BWN networking event, because we send through the access link the day before, and if you book last minute at 10 o'clock, there's enough of the team on board that will still get you access very last minute. But at the start, we would have people saying, I can't find you. We'd say, I think you've set up your own room. We're not in that one. You haven't invited us there. You need to come over here. And I think it's made a lot of people that have probably been shy of tech have to kind of embrace it or give up, kind of thing. So it's been challenging.
It is a big challenge. I mean, I've helped some of the BWN ladies myself when they've struggled a bit, and unfortunately technology is something that a lot of people are scared of, probably because they've seen some horror stories or heard me talking, I don't know, but you don't need to be scared of it. And often if you just sit back and go through things slowly and just engage with it a bit more rather than being scared of it, it's a really useful tool. I mean, my mother, who is a total technophobe, has had to learn how to do her shopping online with Tesco's because they're shielding. And she's getting the hang of it. You know, she knows she has to, so she's just got on with it. I mean, she still gets in a little bit of a muddle, but she's doing what she can to learn, because she know, and things like Zoom calling as well, she's had to learn how to do that because it's the way we've been able to really talk to each other.
Yeah.
So it seems scary, but it's like anything that you're not used to or is new. Basically, it's a fear of something that you don't quite understand.
Yeah. Break something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, as long as you go about it carefully, ask for help if you need it. I mean, crikey, don't go and get yourself in a muddle. But if you use it sensibly and carefully, it's perfectly safe.
I think that's a good thing about the Insiders. The Insiders is our confidential mastermind group, and most of the people that tend to the BWN events are members of that as well. And that's a really good place. If you're struggling with tech, then that's a good place to say help. I was helping someone. We keep it very confidential what happens on the mastermind group, on our mastermind group, but I can tell you this, that someone was struggling. They've completely changed their business because they're not allowed to start work yet. So everything's gone to videos, ebooks and courses, which is an amazing achievement in 3 months. But they were really struggling to get the videos onto their website. So I was working that day, and I came back in the evening, and then there was all these different suggestions. She was like, I've tried this and it won't work. That doesn't work. No, I'd have to pay for that. And oh no, Mandy says never pay for something if you don't have to. That's more profit. And it was all this great conversation. And I said, just put it on YouTube, mark it as private, and slap it on your website. You don't want it on your website anyway because it will take up too much space. It will make the website slow. And everyone went, oh yeah. And it was really amazing that you got that place where you can feel confident to say, excuse me, I don't know how to do this. I'm one of those people. In our house, we come into 2 sections. I don't know if you have this in your house. So any new tech, anything from a microwave, a laptop, a new TV system, anything, there's 2 trains of thought as far as I'm aware. There's the one, let's get the handbook and have a read and see what we need to learn to do this. And that's my husband. And as he's reading the handbook, he turns around and I've got it plugged in and I'm pressing buttons. Well, that didn't work. What's that one do? What's that? And he's like, no, you read the book. No, I'm just going to press lots of buttons. It'll work eventually. So I have like an anti-fear of tech, and I'll just give it a go. Because yeah. I think because I've had websites for so many years, you learn that as long as you back things up, as long as you make sure you keep things secure, you will have a version of the website. Even if you completely mucked it up, it's only going to go back to yesterday's version. So I think I'm less tech phobe, but I suppose that's also because over the years I have made a few mistakes as well, which you fixed. we've I mean, nobody's immune. That's the other thing. Everybody thinks, oh well, if we've got these cybersecurity people and they're doing stuff, then we'll never have a problem, and that's not actually true. And the biggest creator of security issues is people. And you know, we can put as much guidance in and tech and all of that as possible, but it's people. Yeah, it's still going to be a human with a human brain.
Yeah, I mean, you could get what seems like a perfectly innocent telephone call. I mean, it's not so much these days because people tend to share them and see, but saying, I'm calling from Microsoft, there's a problem with your computer, if you give me access. And you're like, yeah, don't do it, obviously, but somebody will. That's why these people still keep going, because somebody will give them the access and give them their passwords and give them their bank account details. It just happens. Yeah. That's why they're there. So, and that's people, and there's nothing apart from training, which, you know, obviously we do. Yeah. So you train people, and the conversations and chats that I have with people, I'm trying to educate people, but you cannot control what somebody does in a sudden given moment, and that's when it happens.
Yeah. So that's really good advice. Thank you, Jayne. So what if we were going to give people, I've fallen into doing this because everyone shared something really cool. If you were to give everyone watching today some piece of advice so that they make their business and themselves successful, no matter what the future holds, what would you suggest? And it could just as simply be a G&T, since we are on Friday afternoon.
Always. Gin is fine. And coffee. Those two. I mean, the thing from a more serious point of view is embrace the technology, but also keep up with it. So it's very easy to get left behind. It's very easy to leave yourself open to issues because you are not keeping up with technology. So it's all very well to go, oh, I'm getting a new phone, but did you install virus software on your new phone, for example? Do you make sure that all the updates are regularly done? It's just small, simple things that people go. I mean, my son gets it all the time because we've got some old iPads that are now no longer supported. They're just past it, but they only use it for browsing the internet. And it keeps coming up saying update iOS. And I know that people go, oh yeah, I'll do it later. And the more times you say you do it later, the less chance it'll actually update, because they need to have them done sequentially, in sequence, to be able to keep updating correctly. So every time you ignore it and say, oh, I'll do it later, you're possibly putting yourself at risk. So if there's an update, say yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jayne. That's been really interesting today. And if you heard my dog in the background, it's just a reminder that it's real life, isn't it, really? I think we had banging in the background in the last show. We're having the broadband wiring redone. And today, Holly has really wanted to be in on the act. So apologies for that if you could hear my terribly killer hound who yes, clearly wants to play and has got her toys and God knows what else, and still thinks she can carry on playing. So thanks again for joining us today, Jayne. Next time I'm going to be with Lisa Hardy, and I look forward to seeing you at an event again soon. Thanks so much, Jayne. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.